As we mark the 23rd anniversary of September 11th, many of us vividly recall that day. We remember exactly where we were and what we were doing when we first saw those harrowing images on our televisions. We watched in stunned silence as the first and then the second World Trade Center tower collapsed into a heap of rubble. In the forefront of our minds was the shock of, is this really happening? But in the background, there was a deeper unease. What does this mean for the future? It was a sobering realization that our borders were not impenetrable, our defenses were not impregnable, and our nation was not invulnerable. For many, it was an eye-opening experience. I visited what was then called Ground Zero only days after this horrific attack. Standing in amazement at the spot where the Twin Towers once stood, I watched the smoke billow from the massive destruction. It was a surreal and incredibly sad moment. On September 11, 2001, our nation faced a tragedy that, while profound, reflects what individuals often experience. Tragedy does not discriminate. It touches both the godless and the godly. While we may not have easy answers for why God allows such suffering, one perspective is that suffering strips away our sense of self-sufficiency. It dissolves the pretense that we don't need help, reminding us of our need for God. C.S. Lewis wrote, "Pain removes the veil." It plants the flag of truth within the fortress of a rebel soul. It may surprise some to learn that the Bible does not promise a life free from suffering, but it does assure us of God's presence through that suffering if we allow Him in. Reflecting on 9/11 and the days that followed, we began to realize that a new kind of battle had begun. The phrase war on terror was coined to describe not just a military conflict, but also a war of ideas and beliefs. Fear is what gives terrorism its power. Yet when we turn our focus to God, that fear dissipates. The Bible tells us that perfect love casts out fear. And God is that perfect love casts out fear. And God is that perfect love. He removed the sting of death and triumphed over the terror of the grave more than 2,000 years ago when He sent His Son to die on the cross. Let me draw your attention to a comforting passage from Psalm 91. Those who live in the shelter of the Most High will find rest in the shadow of the Almighty. The psalmist continues, He alone is my refuge, my place of safety. He is my God, and I trust Him. As a nation, may we find safety and refuge in the shelter of the Almighty as we place our trust in Him. And let us not forget to pray for the comfort of those who lost loved ones 23 years ago.